Now let's look at finding the trig values for secant, cosecant, and cotangent without using your calculator. So there's some different strategies we're going to look at. But the big tip I have for you is always think of sine, cosine, and tangent first. Find that value and then take the reciprocal of the answer. So when I see secant of 240, the first thing I do is think secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So I'm going to think in my mind, what do I do for cosine, and then what would I do for secant? So the first thing I'm going to do is draw my 240 degree angle. So 240 degrees is in quadrant 3. 240 degrees goes all the way around to here. It is 60 more than 180. So that means this is a 60 degree reference angle, and I'm dealing with a 30, 60, 90 triangle. I do not have to know my unit circle to do this. I just need to know my 30, 60, 90 triangle. So I know the hypotenuse of my 30, 60, 90 triangle is 2, the shortest side is 1, and the other leg is square root of 3. I also know that the 1 and the square root of 3 are both negative since they are in quadrant 3. So now I can find cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, negative 1 over 2. So cosine of 240 is equal to negative 1 over 2. That's adjacent over hypotenuse. Now, how do I do secant? I take the reciprocal of that. It is negative 2 over 1, which is just negative 2. So secant of 240 is negative 2. All right, let's look at cotangent of 330. So I'm thinking tangent. Tangent's opposite over adjacent. So cotangent's going to be adjacent over opposite. Okay, so this is hypotenuse over adjacent in the previous one. This is going to be adjacent over opposite. That's what I'll be looking for. So I'm going to draw my 330 degree angle, which is in quadrant 4. It's 30 degrees away from 360, so it has a 30 degree reference angle. So this all the way around here is 330, go 30 more, and I get to 360. So in this case, the short side is the vertical leg, and it's negative because it's in quadrant 4, so negative 1, hypotenuse is 2, adjacent side radical 3. Cotangent is opposite over adjacent, negative 1 over radical 3. Sorry, tangent is opposite over adjacent, negative 1 over radical 3. So cotangent is adjacent over opposite, which is radical 3 over negative 1, or negative radical 3. And I guess I need to move this over so there's room here. Radical 3 over negative 1, or negative radical 3. So adjacent over opposite is what I'm looking for here. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So now I'm looking for hypotenuse over opposite for this particular one. So if I look in 225 is in quadrant 3. It's one of the angles that has a 45 degree reference angle because it's 45 degrees more than 180. That means my two sides are 1, 1, and my hypotenuse is square root of 2. Both of my opposite and my adjacent sides are negative because I'm in quadrant 3. Now, instead of doing opposite over hypotenuse, negative 1 over square root of 2, I'm going to do hypotenuse over opposite, which is 2 over square root of 2 over negative 1, or negative square root of 2. I'm going to separate that negative sign from the square root sign. It's kind of hard to see. Negative square root of 2. So there's my answer for cosecant of 225. Now the next row we're going to be looking at some that I can't draw a triangle for. These are the quadrantal angles. So we have two strategies. So I'm going to show you two different strategies for each one. So once again, I think cosecant. That's the reciprocal of sine. So I'm thinking about sine. So one thing I can do is think, I know what a sine graph looks like. I just did this on a quiz, so I can go from here to here like this, and I know that 90 degrees is where sine is at its highest, which is 1. I could also think of the unit circle. That would be my other strategy. So, or I can think of my unit circle at 90 degrees. That's the highest value. 90 degrees has the coordinates 0, 1, and I know that sine is the y-coordinate. So what's the reciprocal of 1? The reciprocal of 1 is 1. So the answer here is 1. So when you have a problem like this, I'd expect you to either make a little sketch of a sine graph or a little sketch of the unit circle and show me where that number 1 came from. Okay? Cotangent, 270. Well, this is the reciprocal of tangent. So with tangent, I'm thinking slope. I'm thinking, oh, okay, 270, that's straight down here. 270 has undefined slope. Slope is undefined, but that's tangent. So if tangent is undefined, then cotangent is 0. I could picture my cotangent graph, but I find it personally easier to picture slope and then realize that wherever tangent is 0, then cotangent will be undefined, or wherever tangent is undefined, cotangent will be 0. Okay, secant, reciprocal of cosine. Look at 270. So 270, two strategies. Cosine graph. So here's my cosine graph. Remember, right in the middle is 180. So 180 is -1. So here would be 0 degrees 1, 90 degrees 0, 180 -1. 270 cosine is equal to 0. So this is cosine of 270 equals 0. But I don't want cosine, I want secant. What's the reciprocal of 0? 1 over 0, which is undefined. So this is a place where secant would have one of its asymptotes because cosine is equal to 0. I could also do the same thing with the unit circle. I could say right here at 270 the coordinates are 0, -1, and I know that cosine goes with the x-coordinate, so cosine of 270 is 0, therefore secant is undefined. Right, let's look at 3 more. Cotangent of 180. So I'm thinking of tangent again. 180 is this direction right here. So all the way around here. This has a slope equal to 0. So tangent of 180 equals 0. What does that mean about cotangent? It's undefined. Cosecant, reciprocal of sine. Think about sine of 180. Draw the graph here. 0, 0, 91, 180, 0. Sine of 180 is equal to 0, therefore cosecant, undefined. I could also think of the unit circle. Unit circle at 180. This point would be -1, 0. Sine goes with the y-coordinate. Sine is 0, therefore its reciprocal is undefined. Cotangent of 315. 315 has a 45-degree reference angle in quadrant 4. Its opposite side is -1, adjacent is 1, hypotenuse square root of 2. Looking for tangent, tangent would be opposite over adjacent. Cotangent would be adjacent over opposite. Either way, the answer is -1. Adjacent over opposite. So those are strategies for dealing with both angles that I can't draw a triangle for, angles that are on 0, 90, 180, and 270, and dealing with reciprocal functions.